All right, let's just dive right into the deep end today. If you are sitting the Cambridge Information Technology 9626 exams, or honestly, any of the Cambridge Computer Science papers, we're talking 0417, 0478, 2210, or 9618, you already know the intense pressure of that exam room. You can feel the clock ticking. But here is the stark, unfiltered reality straight from the principal examiner reports. Most students are absolutely bleeding easy marks on Section 14.9, which is network security threats. We're talking about things like brute force attacks, denial of service, botnets, malware, and SQL injection. And the crazy part? It's not that they don't know the material. They understand the concepts perfectly well in class, but the second they sit down with that paper, the marks just vanish into thin air. Why does this happen? Because they are casting the completely wrong spells. Today, we are turning you into the absolute wizard of the exam hall. I am going to hand you the exact examiner playbook. We're going to cover the structural frameworks and the precise strategies that will guarantee, literally guarantee, you aren't one of those students leaving easy marks on the table. We're going to deconstruct exactly what the examiners are desperately looking for, and more importantly, how you can deliver it perfectly every single time.
So I want to introduce you to the core challenge by looking at two hypothetical but incredibly common students. You might even recognize a bit of yourself in them. First up, we have Alex. Now, Alex is the classic over-preparer. Alex studies for hours and hours, but in the exam, Alex overloads their answers with every single raw computer science fact they can possibly remember. They will write half a page beautifully defining what a network is, but they completely lack any critical analysis or application to the specific scenario they were actually asked about. They just dump facts, crossing their fingers and hoping the examiner will sift through the mess to find the marks. It doesn't work. Then we have Sam. Now, Sam knows the material just as well, but Sam is rushing. Sam looks at the question, panics slightly, and completely misses the vital command word. Words like evaluate or discuss fly right over Sam's head, and instead, Sam just writes a super basic description. The red pen marks you see all over their answers, they aren't there because Alex and Sam don't understand network security. Not at all. They are losing those marks because they simply don't understand the game of the exam. They completely lack the structural framework.
So, here is our incredibly focused roadmap for today's explainer. First, we'll deconstruct the core network security threats. Second, we'll reveal the top 3 examiner warnings. Third, we'll master the procedural answering framework. And finally, we'll elevate your answers to achieve critical analysis for those absolute maximum marks.
Section 1, Core Network Security Threats. Let's start looking at this entirely through the lens of a Cambridge examiner.
Consider the standard definition of brute force. Yes, on a basic level, it's systematically checking all possible passwords or encryption keys until the correct one is finally found. But here's the secret. Top-performing candidates do not just stop at that basic textbook definition. They exhibit what we call a connected understanding. When a top student answers a question on brute force, they bring in concepts like time complexity. They discuss how the actual effectiveness of a brute force attack is directly tied to password entropy, meaning the length and the complexity of the key. And most importantly, they apply it to the scenario. If the exam question is talking about a bank's brand new login portal, the A-star student explicitly mentions that a brute force attack here could be easily mitigated by limiting login attempts or implementing a CAPTCHA. Why? Specifically because it stops at automated, systematic checking dead in its tracks. That right there, that is analytical depth.
And you know, this brilliantly illustrates our next major threat, DoS or denial of service. This is flooding a target network or system with traffic to exhaust resources and disrupt access. Again, a superficial, low-mark answer just says, oh, it makes the website crash. But analytical depth, which is the only thing that actually gets you the marks, specifies exactly what resources are being exhausted. You have to ask yourself, is it bandwidth consumption? Is it CPU overload? Is it memory exhaustion on the server side? When you write your answer, you need to clearly state that the legitimate users are denied access because the server's processing capacity is entirely consumed by handling these malicious, artificial requests. That specific technical distinction is exactly where those sweet method marks are hiding.
So the crucial point here is really understanding how these attacks scale up, which brings us perfectly to botnets. A botnet is a network of private computers infected with malicious software and controlled as a group completely without the owner's knowledge. To really encode these concepts into your memory so you don't blank under exam pressure, I highly recommend using a visual story method. It works like magic. Picture a dark, shadowy puppet master. That is your command and control server. Then picture thousands of innocent-looking devices out in the world. We're talking smart fridges, home Wi-Fi routers, or personal laptops. These are your zombies.
The puppet master pulls the strings, and all of these zombies simultaneously send traffic to one specific unfortunate target. Creating that visual story in your mind perfectly links botnets directly to distributed denial of service, or DDoS attacks. And let me tell you, examiners absolutely love it when you clearly show that you understand a botnet is often the primary mechanism used to deliver that massive DoS attack.
Finally, rounding out our core concepts, we have malware and SQL injection. Now, malware is just the broad umbrella term for malicious software designed to harm systems. Think viruses, worms, trojans, ransomware, all of that. SQL injection, on the other hand, is highly specific. It's the actual insertion of malicious SQL statements into entry fields for back-end execution. Now, you might be wondering, why do students find the distinction between these key terminologies so incredibly hard on the actual exams? Well, it's because they constantly confuse the payload with the exploit. Listen carefully. Malware is often the payload that gets delivered after a vulnerability is successfully exploited. SQL injection, however, is an attack vector exploiting poor input validation in a database-driven application. If you can clearly explain to the examiner that SQL injection actively manipulates the back-end database querying process, maybe by bypassing authentication entirely by simply entering or1 = 1 into a login field, you are finally speaking their language. You are showing genuine mastery.
Section 2. Top 3 Examiner Warnings. Before we continue, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Ace the Exams, at acetheexams_IGCSE to excel in your Cambridge examinations. Click that subscribe button and hit the bell icon right now.
All right, let's look at what the data actually reveals about the top 3 reasons candidates bleed marks. Let's act like a senior examiner for just a moment. Imagine I am sitting there marking my 500th paper of the week. What makes me instantly deduct marks? Number 1, vague answers. Just saying malware is bad for the computer is a guaranteed 0-mark response. It means nothing. Examiners want specific technical details. How exactly does it harm the computer? Does it silently encrypt vital data and demand a cryptocurrency payment? Say that. Number 2, forgetting format and presentation conventions. The syllabus explicitly, repeatedly states that presentation of information must follow strict rules: proper headings, correct terminology, appropriate formats, and clear annotation. If a question asks for a structured report and you just quickly scribble down a bulleted list of random thoughts, you lose marks immediately. And number 3, the absolute biggest killer of them all, writing answers that are not specific to the given context.
Consider this an official examiner alert. Look at the difference here. On one side, we have a generic, totally vague syllabus answer. It just recites the textbook definition of a brute force attack verbatim. Yawn. On the other side, we have a highly specific, context-driven application. If the exam scenario specifically asks about a hospital's brand new patient database, the correct high-scoring answer explains exactly how a brute force attack could specifically compromise highly sensitive medical records. It mentions how this violates data protection regulations and directly endangers patient privacy. You see, the assessment objectives target very distinct cognitive domains: knowledge, application, and analysis. That first generic answer, that's just basic knowledge. It caps out at 1 or 2 marks. The second answer hits application and analysis. You must always link every single point you make straight back to the given scenario.
Section 3. The Procedural Answering Framework. Stop scrolling. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Ace the Exams, at acetheexams_IGC to excel in your Cambridge examinations. We've helped thousands of students improve by 2 to 3 grade boundaries. Join them right now by subscribing to @acetheexams_IGSC and turn on all notifications so you never miss our weekly exam strategy sessions.
Okay, let's get into the actual mechanics. This right here is the exact blueprint that top-scoring students use every single time. We call it the Deconstruct, Solve, Evaluate blueprint, and it's completely driven by the Peel framework: point, evidence, explanation, link. Step 1, you must deconstruct the question. What is the actual command word? Is it just identify for a quick 1 mark? Is it explain for 4 marks? Or is it a massive discuss for 8 marks? Step 2, extract relevant data from the texts and the tables provided in the scenario. Don't just gloss over them. Step 3, select your analytical framework. Are you comparing 2 things? Are you evaluating a system? Figure it out before you write a single word. Step 4, execute and present your answer with clear notation and perfect, correct terminology. This systematic processing ensures you literally pick up every single method mark available. You make your point, you provide solid evidence from the scenario, you explain the underlying technical computer science principle, and finally, you link it right back to the overall impact on the system. It's a formula and it works.
Section 4. Interactive Workshop. Let's actually test this out.
It's one thing to just nod along to a video, it's another entirely to do it under pressure. So take a quick scan of the mock network attack data we've provided here. We've got IP sources, attack frequencies, and targeted ports. I'm going to simulate the exam environment for you. You need to extract the core trend here. What are you actually seeing? Are multiple completely different IP addresses targeting port 80 simultaneously with massive, overwhelming frequency? If your eyes catch that, your brain should immediately flag distributed denial of service. Or conversely, are you seeing a single, isolated IP address attempting thousands of rapid sequential login attempts on port 22 over a long extended period? Well, that is the exact signature of a brute force attack on an SSH service. Top candidates don't just blankly read the numbers in a table. They actively translate that raw data into comprehensive threat profiles.
Now let's look at a hypothetical student's attempt to analyze a threat. Read this flawed sample paragraph closely. A brute force attack is when a hacker tries every possible password combination to gain access to a system. This can take a long time, but eventually works if the password is weak. The company should use strong passwords to prevent this. Okay, find the flaw. Why is this specific sentence severely losing critical marks? Well, here's the official examiner commentary. It completely, utterly fails to reference the scenario-specific database parameters. It's just a textbook definition floating out there in a vacuum. To actually get the marks, the student needs to say something like, a brute force attack against the company's newly implemented cloud database could heavily compromise the stored customer financial records. Furthermore, because the scenario clearly states they currently have no lockout policy in place, the system is highly vulnerable to automated scripts systematically guessing credentials. Do you see the massive difference there? Application is absolutely everything.
Let's turn those red pen marks into green check marks right now. Take a few seconds to mentally construct a flawless peel paragraph based on the botnet concept we discussed a few minutes ago. Remember the structure: point, evidence, explanation, link. Start with your point. Clearly state the specific threat. Evidence: mention the specific compromised devices from whatever scenario you are imagining right now. Explanation: detail exactly how the malicious software actually controls that massive zombie network. Link: conclude strongly with the final impact, like severe network bandwidth exhaustion, preventing legitimate users from accessing the site. If you actively train your brain to write in these strict, modular peel blocks, I promise you, you will never again sit there staring at a blank exam page wondering how to magically structure your answer. You aren't guessing anymore. You are coldly executing a proven system. Section 5. Critical Analysis for Marks. We are now stepping all the way up to the highest possible cognitive domain, critical evaluation. This is exactly where you separate yourself from the average candidate and comfortably secure those top-grade boundaries. Look at this quote. This is the ultimate examiner insight. Top-scoring candidates demonstrate evaluative thinking by questioning assumptions, considering different perspectives, and justifying decisions with evidence. So how do you actually do this on paper when the clock is ticking? By using comparative analysis. You need to vividly identify similarities and differences. You must use comparative connectives. I'm talking about words like whereas, in contrast, conversely, and however. If an 8-mark question asks you to evaluate the threats of SQL injection versus DoS attacks to a specific e-commerce platform, you do not just describe both of them separately in isolation. No, you write, while a DoS attack primarily targets system availability by exhausting server resources, SQL injection, in contrast, directly threatens data integrity and confidentiality by bypassing authentication entirely. You support each of those comparisons with concrete evidence from the scenario, and then you draw a fully justified conclusion about which is the greater relative risk to the business. That right there, that is the magic spell for full marks. Why is the number 2 so critical here? Because the data shows that students who implement these computer science strategies see an average improvement of 2 grade boundaries, but only if they practice consistently with our weekly videos. They literally jump from a C to an A or a B to an A star just by changing their structural approach to the paper. But again, it only happens if you practice consistently, rigorously applying this peel framework and evaluative thinking to your past paper questions every single week.
Here's your final reminder. Subscribe to our YouTube channel Ace the Exams at Ace the Exams IGCSE to excel in your Cambridge examinations. Subscribe right now to Ace the Exams IGCSE and click that bell. Don't let another exam pass you by. Drop a comment below with your target grade for computer science and the biggest challenge you're facing. Our team responds to every comment. Like and share this video with a study partner. Ace the Exams. Your Cambridge success starts here. Remember, the difference between an average candidate and a top-tier candidate isn't just raw knowledge anymore. It's pure strategy.
When you sit down for your exam, are you going to be reacting blindly or will you be executing a calculated framework? The playbook is yours. Use it well.